Some of the greatest songs ever recorded almost didn't make it. Not because they weren't ready, not because the artists had no talent, but because the suits in the boardroom looked at raw, bleeding genius and said no.
I was born by the river.
They called it too political, too raw, too risky, too black. They buried the masters, they withheld the singles, they pulled the radio plugs and protected their bottom line, while the world almost lost masterpieces forever.
Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee may.
Welcome to Retro Vinyl, where we don't just play the hits, we tell the truth behind them. If this kind of deep dive is your thing, hit that subscribe button right now, because the fourth entry on this list is one of the most jaw-dropping label betrayals in music history, and you are not going to want to miss it.
Sitting in the morning sun.
Number 10, Sittin' On, The Dock of the Bay, Otis Redding, 1968. In the fall of 1967, Otis Redding sat on a rented houseboat in Sausalito, California, staring out at the bay, and wrote what would become the most bittersweet farewell in soul music history. He'd just destroyed the stage at the Monterey Pop Festival. He was on the verge of crossover stardom, and now, inspired by the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album he was obsessively listening to, he was writing something softer, something completely unlike anything Stax Records had ever heard from him. When he brought the song into the studio with guitarist Steve Cropper, Stax chief Jim Stewart, flat out, said he didn't want it released. He didn't think it was R&B. Bassist Duck Dunn feared it would damage the label's reputation. Ear and Atlantic Records exec Jerry Wexler, the so-called overlord, called the vocal too recessed. He demanded a remix. Here's the twist. Steve Cropper went back into the studio and changed absolutely nothing. He sent the exact same recording back to Wexler, who replied, "Oh yeah, this sounds a lot better." Only one Stax executive, Al Bell, heard it being recorded and quietly said, "I don't know if we can ever release this song." Then, on December 10th, 1967, 3 days after the final recording session, Otis Redding's plane crashed into Lake Monona in Wisconsin. He was 26 years old.
Watching the ships roll in.
Cropper finished the mix alone, adding the now iconic seagull sounds Otis had requested. And when it was finally released in January 1968, it became the first posthumous #1 single in American chart history. Though the song the label was afraid to release, sold over 4 million copies worldwide. It was ranked by BMI as the 6th most performed song of the entire 20th century.
And this loneliness won't leave me alone.
The executives had their doubts. The audience, not a single one. Number 9, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, James Brown, 1968. 4 months after Martin Luther King was assassinated, the streets of America were burning, and James Brown was in a hotel room in Los Angeles, writing on a napkin. It was August 1968, and Brown had just played the most important concert of his life, a peacekeeping performance in Boston the night after King's murder, broadcast live on television to help stop riots from erupting in the city. He pulled it off. The city held together, and now the fury he felt, the pride he needed to channel, poured out onto that napkin. King Records released Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, on August 7th, 1968. And it terrified some white executives at radio stations and music companies who worried it was too militant. Several mainstream pop stations refused to play it. Oh, here's the irony that almost nobody knows. The children's voices shouting the chorus in the song. Brown's manager, Charles Bobbitt, drove an old-school bus through Watts and Compton, picked up about 30 kids, paid them $10 each, and a James Brown album. And most of them were actually white and Asian. The song held the R&B #1 spot for 6 straight weeks. It peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Chuck D of Public Enemy later said it was the record that made him stop accepting the word Negro and start calling himself black. Brown himself later called the song obsolete by the 1980s. But in its moment, it was the unofficial anthem of Black Power, a rallying cry written on a napkin that the industry tried to minimize, and the people turned into a revolution.
Clean, bad machine, super cool, super mean, feeling good.
Number 8, Superfly, Curtis Mayfield, 1972.
Oh, Superfly. You're gonna...
When the director of the film Superfly first approached Curtis Mayfield about writing the soundtrack, Mayfield was worried, not about his ability. He was worried because Marvin Gaye had just released What's Going On, and he didn't think there was space left for more socially conscious soul. He was wrong.
Can't be like the rest, is the most he'll confess.
Mayfield flew to New York, recorded the track Pusherman at night in a Bell Sound studio, and shot the film scene using that track the very next morning. He then wrote the rest of the album in just 3 days at Curtis Studios on the south side of Chicago, the label he had built himself after escaping the constraints of mainstream record deals.
Always do or die.
Here's what the executives at Buddha Records, who distributed Curtis, did not see coming. They expected a standard blaxploitation soundtrack, yet full of glorified drug culture. What they got was the opposite.
Don't ask no questions why. The only game.
Mayfield's lyrics condemned the world the film celebrated. While the movie held an ambiguous view of cocaine dealers, Mayfield's music called it out as exploitation and destruction.
But if you lose, don't...
Record executives had little faith the album would sell significantly. They were spectacularly wrong. The album hit #1 on the Billboard Albums chart. Freddie's Dead went to #2 on the R&B charts. The title track went to #8 on pop. And Superfly became one of the FU soundtracks in history to outgross the film it was written for.
For the man, Superfly, here I stand, secret stash.
Curtis Mayfield grew up in the Cabrini Green housing projects. He didn't need research for these songs. He lived them. And the industry that bet against him watched him rewrite the rules. Number 7, Let's Stay Together, Al Green, 1972.
Why people break up.
Before Al Green became the velvet voice of Memphis soul, he was a broke young singer from Grand Rapids, Michigan, touring on a minor hit called Back Up Train. And one night in Midland, Texas, his entire band quit on him. Left to perform alone, he got on stage and sang everything he had. In the audience was Willie Mitchell, trumpeter, band leader, and the mastermind behind High Records. Mitchell saw something in Green's voice that nobody else had captured. He brought him to Memphis, he signed him, and then he fought him for over 100 hours in the studio to get the song that would change everything. Mitchell and drummer Al Jackson sketched out some chords. Like Green disappeared for 15 minutes and came back with the complete lyrics to Let's Stay Together. But recording it was agony.
Why people break up.
Green kept trying to overpower the song, bellowing like the soul shouters of the 1960s. Mitchell kept shutting it down. I want Al Green, he said, not somebody else. Green stormed out of the studio, spun his Corvette across the parking lot in fury, then came back and whispered. Mitchell had 500,000 copies pressed immediately. On Monday, the record appeared. By Thursday, it had gone gold. Let's Stay Together hit number 1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B chart. It stayed 9 weeks at the top of the R&B chart. In 1999, the Grammy Hall of Fame inducted it. In 2010, the Library of Congress added it to the National Recording Registry. And President Barack Obama, at a 2012 Apollo Theater fundraiser, sang the opening line live on stage, astonishingly well.
What's going on? What's going on?
Number 6. What's Going On? Marvin Gaye, 1971.
Mother.
Berry Gordy called it, quote, "the worst record I've heard in my life." That is a real quote. And that is how Berry Gordy, founder of Motown Records, the most powerful black music executive in American history, described the song that Rolling Stone would later name one of the greatest albums ever made.
Picket lights. Picket signs.
It was 1970. Marvin Gaye's beloved duet partner, Tammy Terrell, had just died from a brain tumor. His brother Frankie had come home from Vietnam, broken, and Gaye sat in a Detroit studio, at his own expense, and recorded a sweeping jazzy orchestral protest against police brutality, poverty, and the Vietnam War.
With brutality. Talk to me.
He called Gordy from the Bahamas to pitch it. Gordy's response was immediate. "Marvin, why do you want to ruin your career?" Motown's entire quality control department rejected it. Only 2 people at the label loved it, Stevie Wonder and an executive named Harry Balk. And Balk decided to risk his career. He went completely behind Berry Gordy's back and secretly pressed and distributed 100,000 copies of What's Going On to record stores across America.
What's going on? Hey, what's going on?
The reaction was instant. Radio stations lit up. The phones rang off the hooks. The single sold over 100,000 copies in its first week. Gaye refused to record another note for Motown until the album was released. He got his way. And then the full What's Going On album, the record Gordy called unreleasable, became one of the most celebrated albums in the history of recorded music.
Talk to me, so you can see.
It opened the door for Stevie Wonder to demand his own creative freedom, leading directly to Talking Book and Inner Visions. Berry Gordy eventually admitted, "What's Going On was probably the greatest piece of work that Motown has ever put out."
Mother, we don't need you.
Hey, real quick, we are exactly halfway through this countdown, and the stories only get more unbelievable from here.
I think it over.
So, are you enjoying this video? Because if you are, do me one small favor right now and hit that like button. It costs you nothing. It takes half a second. And it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who love real music history, just like you do.
Just simply cause I
Also, if you are not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a deep dive like this one. All right, we still have 5 more stories to tell. And trust me, number 3 is going to stop you cold. Let's get back into it. Number 5, Superstition, Stevie Wonder, 1972. Stevie Wonder wrote Superstition in about 15 minutes. He didn't even plan to keep it. In the early 1970s, Wonder had just fought Motown for his freedom. At age 21, he walked into Berry Gordy's office and said, "Give me full creative control, or I'm leaving." Gordy refused. Wonder went on strike. For months, he simply refused to record. Motown, desperate not to lose one of their biggest stars, eventually blinked. Wonder returned with a new deal, granting him total artistic control and rights to his own songs.
You don't understand when you stop.
He then went into a studio with guitarist Jeff Beck, a legend of British rock, and made a trade. Beck would play on Wonder's new album, and Wonder would give Beck a song in return. That song, improvised live in the session while Beck played drums. Next was Superstition. Wonder told Beck the song was his. Beck was thrilled. "He gave me the riff of the century," Beck later said. But here's where the labels intervened again. Motown CEO Berry Gordy heard the demo, and he knew it was a #1 hit. Under the terms of the new deal, Gordy could still control which songs were released as singles and when. Gordy pushed it out as the lead single for Talking Book in October 1972, months before Beck's version could be released. Beck's recording was delayed 5 months. By the time it arrived, Wonders had already hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Beck and his group were furious, but Wonders' version was already untouchable, hitting #12 on Rolling Stone's 2021 list of the greatest songs of all time. The label that had caged him for a decade ended up being the one that accidentally made his comeback unstoppable. #4, Respect. Aretha Franklin, 1967. Columbia Records had Aretha Franklin for 6 years. 6 years of jazz standards, Broadway show tunes, and restrained arrangements that kept her gospel fire locked in a box. By 1966, Columbia had lost $90,000 on her and let her contract expire, still owing them money. She walked straight into the arms of Atlantic Records producer Jerry Wexler, and everything changed in one weekend at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Wexler flew her down south, paired her with the white session band known as the Swampers, let her sit at the piano herself, and told her to lead. It was the birth of the Queen of Soul, and one of the songs from those sessions was a cover of Otis Redding's Respect, a song Redding had written in 1965 from a man's perspective, and simply asking for appreciation when he got home. That didn't just cover it, she demolished it. She flipped the gender, rewrote the narrative, added the now legendary spelling out of R-E-S-P-E-C-T with her sisters, and gave the bridge an electric energy that made Redding himself admit, "That little girl done took my song away from me." Released in April 1967, Respect hit #1 on both the pop and R&B charts within weeks. It won Franklin 2 Grammy Awards. Rolling Stone named it the greatest song of all time in 2021. Think about that. The label that had her for 6 years and couldn't figure out what to do with her, let her go. And within one single, she became the undisputed queen of soul. Columbia was never the same, and Aretha never looked back. While #3, A Change Is Gonna Come, Sam Cooke, 1964. Sam Cooke wrote, "A change is gonna come," because he was ashamed, not of himself, but of his own silence. In October 1963, Cooke and his group called ahead to the Holiday Inn in Shreveport, Louisiana to reserve rooms. When they arrived, the clerk, nervous and stuttering, claimed there were no vacancies. The rooms were full. Cooke knew why. He demanded to see the manager. His wife grabbed his arm and whispered, "They'll kill you." Cooke responded, "They ain't gonna kill me, because I'm Sam Cooke." He was arrested that night for disturbing the peace, and weeks later, stung by Bob Dylan's "Blowin' in the Wind," a white folk singer writing the civil rights anthem he felt he should have written. Cooke sat alone and wrote "A Change Is Gonna Come" in one sitting.
It's been too hard living.
His biographer Peter Guralnick later said the song almost scared him. It came to him whole, as if it were intended for someone else. When his protege Bobby Womack heard it, he told Cooke it sounded like death. Cooke agreed, and performed it publicly only once, on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson on February 7th, 1964.
I'm able to carry on.
NBC accidentally logged the performance under the wrong title, and didn't save the tape. It is gone forever. RCA Records was timid with the song. When it was finally prepared for single release, they cut the verse that most explicitly addressed racial segregation. I go to the movie and I go downtown, somebody keep telling me don't hang around, to make it more acceptable for white radio stations.
Somebody keep telling me don't.
11 days after the single was released, Sam Cooke was shot and killed at the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles. Yes, he was 33 years old. A dispute between his publisher and RCA Records kept the song locked out of compilations and soundtracks for nearly 40 years. It was even featured in the 1992 film Malcolm X, but could not be included on the soundtrack because of the legal battle.
I could last for long.
When the disputes finally settled in 2003, Rolling Stone ranked it number 12 on its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. NPR called it one of the most important songs of the civil rights era. The label trimmed it, the industry buried it, and history rescued it.
You lied to me all these years. You told me to
Number 2, Mississippi Goddamn, Nina Simone, 1964. Nina Simone didn't plan to write a protest song. She planned to build a gun. On September 15, 1963, a bomb planted by members of the Ku Klux Klan tore through the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, killing 4 young black girls. Simone heard the news and went into a white-hot rage. She later said, "I tried to make myself a gun. I gathered some materials. I was going to take one of them out, and I didn't care who it was."
black cat crossed my path. I think every day's gonna be my.
Her husband Andy stopped her. "Nina," he said, "you can't kill anyone." So she sat down at the piano, and in less than 20 minutes wrote Mississippi Goddamn. She debuted it live at Carnegie Hall in March 1964 to a mostly white audience. She introduced it with devastating sarcasm. The name of this tune is Mississippi Goddamn, and I mean every word of it.
Damn lazy. Too slow. I think it's crazy.
The audience laughed at first. They thought she was joking. In the middle of the song, she looked out at the crowd and said, "Bet you thought I was kidding, didn't you?" Only murmurs came back. They were not ready for what she had made. Simone's new label, Phillips Records, was bold enough to release the single, but the industry punished her for it immediately.
Segregation. Mass participation.
Radio stations across the southern states banned the song. Boxes of promotional singles were mailed back to the record company, each one broken in half. Music venues blacklisted her. Her career prospects in the mainstream shrank overnight. She kept performing it anyway. She sang it at the Selma to Montgomery marches in 1965, changing the lyric from "Tennessee made me lose my rest" to "Selma made me lose my rest."
Give me my equality. 'Cause everybody knows.
She sang it again 3 days after Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis, changing the lyric one more time. She never stopped saying exactly what she meant. The Library of Congress added Mississippi Goddamn to the National Recording Registry in 2019. Rolling Stone ranked it number 172 on its 2021 list of the 500 greatest songs of all time.
Don't tell me, I'll tell you. Me and my people.
In 2025, Rolling Stone placed it at number 7 on its list of the 100 best protest songs of all time, above almost everything else ever written in anger. The industry broke her records in half. History put them back together. Number 1. Thank You, Fallatan Me, Be Mice, Elf, Agin, Sly and the Family Stone, 1969. And here we are, number 1. A song that nearly didn't exist, because the album it was supposed to anchor was never finished. Sly Stone had already changed American music twice by 1969. His band, the first major American rock group with a racially integrated mixed-gender lineup, had stormed the mainstream with Dance to the Music, Everyday People, and a performance at Woodstock that left 500,000 people speechless. Epic Records. Chief Clive Davis had questioned everything about them, their look, their fashion, whether the way they dressed might distract from the music. Sly Stone told Davis no. It was fashion and a feeling, and he wasn't changing either one. But now, with the band at its commercial peak, and Sly was sending Davis a different message entirely, wrapped in the most dangerous groove anyone had ever recorded. Thank you, Fallitin me be myself again, was written, says Stone, because he felt that even as the hits piled up, people were missing the point. They were dancing. They weren't listening. The song's title is a phonetic spelling of "Thank you for letting me be myself again." And the lyrics are a scathing, self-directed indictment of the music industry machinery grinding artists down. Bassist Larry Graham invented the slap bass technique on this very track, literally creating a new language for the electric bass while trying to replicate the sound of a drum kit he didn't have. Epic Records had almost no faith in this song as an album cut, because the album it was meant for was never completed. The band was disintegrating, and drug use was accelerating. The in-progress LP was abandoned entirely. Epic quietly buried the 3 finished tracks: Thank You, Hot Fun in the Summertime, and Everybody is a Star, onto a greatest hits compilation, and hoped for the best. What happened instead was one of the biggest chart runs of the entire decade. Thank You entered the Billboard Hot 100 in late December 1969 and hit number 1 in February 1970, staying at the top for 2 weeks on the pop chart and 5 weeks on the R&B chart. It sparked a 20-month silence from the band, followed by the dark, paranoid masterpiece, There's a Riot Going On, an album that redefined what funk music was allowed to say. Rolling Stone ranked Thank You among the 500 greatest songs of all time. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Sly and the Family Stone in 1993. And Larry Graham's slap bass technique, born on this recording, went on to directly influence Prince, Michael Jackson, Bootsy Collins, and almost every funk and R&B bassist who came after him. The label tossed it onto a compilation as filler. The people turned it into a revolution. The suits said it was a leftover. The world said it was the future. And the world was right. 10 songs, 10 battles. One industry that kept trying to silence the truth, and failed every single time. From Otis Redding writing on a houseboat 3 days before his death, to Marvin Gaye going on strike until Berry Gordy blinked, to Nina Simone getting her records broken in half and singing louder. The theme is always the same. The gatekeepers bet against the music. The music won.
I said we want what's moving until we get what we deserve.
If you made it this far, drop a comment below and tell me which story hit you the hardest. Was it Sam Cooke? Was it Sly Stone's bass line that launched a revolution? Was it the fact that Columbia Records had Aretha Franklin for 6 years and couldn't figure out what to do with her? And if this kind of real music history is what you came here for, you already know what to do. Like subscribe and turn on that notification bell.
Ain't I clean, bad machine, super cool, super mean.
Because at Retro Vinyl, the hits may be legendary, but the stories behind them, that's where the real soul lives. We'll see you in the next one. Until next time, keep the needle on the record and the volume where it belongs. Drop your favorite in the comments and tell us the memories it unlocked. Subscribe for our next deep dive.